Brava, welcome to this edition of Africa in Focus with myself, Kwame, Ghanaian writer, broadcaster, producer, and entrepreneur. And in this week's edition of Africa in Focus, we're still looking at relationships. This is part 10, but we've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And this will, for now, finish the series on relationships, because it's important to delve into relationships, particularly if you are wanting to get married to an African man or woman, to know the sort of dynamics that's involved in this. And this week, we'll be talking about money. Money is a very, very important part of African relationships. So sometimes it can either break and destroy the relationship. And I'm going to quote you an article that I read that's compelled me to actually see fit to talk about why money is an important issue in terms of African relationships. All right, so before we get into the podcast, if you like what you hear, please share it with your friends, family, social media networks. Subscribe to Ghana African Focus on YouTube. Click the notification button, and meaning that YouTube will notify you every time we upload a new podcast. So please sign to subscribe to YouTube. And also, we're on Spotify. You can just look for Ghana African Focus on Spotify. Click the follow button, and Spotify will notify you every time we upload a new podcast, all right? And if you still want to come to Ghana to do business, we do offer a consulting service whereby we can advise you what your needs and wants are and make a package for you and give you a lot of information that you need on doing business in Ghana, traveling in Ghana, what to do about the Ghana card, why you need the Ghana card to do business, how to get a phone contract, etc., etc. So these are all things that are useful if you're wanting to live in Ghana, or as well as do business in Ghana. All right, so we do offer consultation, and like I say, if you want to book a consultation with myself, I've got more than 10 years experience of navigating and doing business in Ghana, so we can give you a lot of valuable information. So if you want to book an appointment, just email me, and I'll leave you the link I'll leave you my email, in the footnotes to the show. All right, and if you want to contribute to the show financially, you can. You can click the donate button. All donations will be greatly appreciated. All right, so let's get into the podcast, looking about money in African relationships. Like I said, I've been prompted to talk about this issue about money of an article that I saw in April, which I'm going to read out to you. I'll read out the first 3 paragraphs of the article, and that will give you a flavor of why we are doing this particular podcast on relationships in Ghana and Africa, not just in Ghana, but in Africa as well, because it applies in Ghana, applies across continent as well. Because money, like I said, money can make or break relationships. And like I said, particularly in Ghana, I don't know about other African countries, but in Ghana, a lot of women are chasing after money. People, men with money, yeah? And some men as well, chase women who they feel are financially well endowed. So it works both ways, but mostly, from my experience in Ghana, and living in Ghana, it's mainly women who are chasing after, men who they perceive to be wealthy. All right, so let me read you this article that I saw on BBC Online in April. So it's only 4 months old, that talked about financial abuse that a doctor in South Africa, she was suffering from financial abuse. Yes, believe it or not, there can be sometimes financial abuse, yeah, from a partner. So I'm just going to read you the first 3 paragraphs of the article to give you a flavor of, the issue at hand. So a young, and I'll put this article in its entirety, again also in the footnotes to the show. So a young female South African doctor has sparked a nationwide conversation about a form of domestic abuse, often shrouded in silence, and that is financial abuse. In a series of viral videos, Dr. Siselwe Ndaba opened up about how she said she had been financially exploited by her husband. how it has spiraled out of control and that led to their separation. Often sitting in her car on her way to work, the mother of three vlogged over 2 weeks about how, despite her successful career, she had become trapped in a toxic marriage for years, feeling manipulated to fund her husband's lifestyle, in particular, his desire to drive a luxury Mercedes Benz. She goes on to say, taking out loans for him to buy such vehicles was the worst decision of her life, putting her family under huge financial pressure, said Dr. Indaba, who, since sharing her story, has visited in her maiden name and the number of followers has ballooned. Now, this should give you, the listener, a semblance of some of the issues that can be at stake when money matters are not discussed between partners, yeah? And when people marry for the wrong reason, in this case, the man saw that his wife had a successful career while he probably wasn't working, or probably he's not as, financially endowed as the wife. But then he then took that as opportunity to manipulate the woman into funding his lavish lifestyle. Yeah. So this is why I say that, and this is why I made the point last week about, should you as a man pay on your first date? Should not the woman pay anything at all? And I mentioned that if the woman agreed to pay for some of the bill, that would show her intention that when you marry her, right, she will help you financially, i.e. in terms of paying the bills, in terms of or sharing the bills, and also in terms of being financially responsible, yeah, and not being, in some people say, in terms of women, a gold digger. So this is why, this issue of finance is very, very important, because like I said, it can lead to marriage breakup. And obviously in this example that I've just read out, the woman left the husband because of this financial abuse that she was going through. Now, why do some men and women, why do they abuse their financial, or why do they abuse their partner or their husband or wife in a financial way? Now, let's start with men. Now, if a man sees that his wife is earning more than him, for every reason, right, that some of that is jealousy, yeah, and that jealousy will then lead to manipulation, whereby he will manipulate the wife because she can afford it, right, to buy him things that he wouldn't be able to afford himself, yeah. But before I go into the a bit further than this, if you as a man, yeah, and your wife earns more than you, it's not an issue. Why should it be an issue? Particularly if you're married, yeah, and a marriage is a partnership, yeah. And it says in the Bible, a man leaves his family, right, and he gets married to a woman, and the two become one. So the two people become one unit. So you become a partnership. It's a partnership, yeah. So it's not an abusive whereby, oh, it's all about you and not your partner, yeah. That's abusive. So when you marry somebody, yeah, you shouldn't marry somebody because they're financially well endowed. And like I say, some men are insecure, not all men, but some men are very insecure of themselves, of their public manhood as well, when their wife earns more than them, earns a lot more than them. And that shouldn't be an issue at all, because if you are into a marriage for the right reason, then if your wife or husband earns more than you, it shouldn't be an issue. Yeah. However, if you went into the marriage, into the relationship with a financial agenda, then that's when that particular issue or problem will become an issue. The fact that your wife earns more than you, as a man, you feel endangered, or you then want to, abuse your wife financially because, you know, by affording or by, you know, going on this lifestyle thing, yeah? You know, luxury cars, luxury holidays, you know, designer clothes, you know, 98-inch TV, blah, 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 blah. I think you get my drift, yeah? So, you know, as men and even as women, it shouldn't really bother if you as a woman will earn more than your husband, because at the end of the day, it's about both of us. This is what a marriage should be about. It's that both of us come together and building for the future. Yeah. So you support me, I support you. And then when we have children, right, we support those children. Yeah. So it shouldn't be about, you know, it's not about a battle of the sexes or whatever. No. You know, that's a Western narrative, yeah. You know, I am more than you, blah, 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 blah. No. You know, as Africans, we shouldn't be thinking like that. You know, and it's quite sad that today, not just in Ghana, but all African continent, you know, a lot of people, yeah, men and women, right, are into this lifestyle thing, right, whereby they view marriage, right, as some kind of you know, financial, you know, safety net, you know, not as a partnership to build something for yourselves and build something for your family and your children. No. And so some men are very, very jealous and then manipulative when their wife is more than them. And I've seen in this story, this is a typical example of that. Now, for women also, yeah, a lot of women, like I said, particularly in Ghana, are chasing after men who got money. So your raising Detra for getting married is not love, it's not for richer, for poorer, to death do us part, for better, for worse, etc. It's about money, yeah? And I've got personal experience of this as well. Yeah, I dated a girl in Ghana, you know, who was just, you know, because she thought I was from abroad, right? You know, she just wanted me to take her to nice places, you know, and that kind of, and drive taxi, not take trotro, yeah? So a lot of women in Ghana, yeah, and possibly Africa as well, yeah, are just into money, yeah, particularly, you know, particularly if they can marry a man who is financially well endowed, yeah. And so again, for me, that states that you have an agenda and that the marriage is not going to work, because what happens if the man's money runs out? You're gonna leave him because he broke now. So you're not gonna, you know, entertain the marriage, because that money that the man had, one way or another, is now you know, is finished, and that man is no longer in your eyes viable financially or viable as a man, because he no longer has the money that he had. Yeah, because obviously this, you know, he spent on you this lavish lifestyle. You know, some of our women, they want to do their hair basically every 2 weeks. They want to do their nails every week. They want to, you know, buy these stupid wigs, you know, Brazilian weave on, you know, Amazonian, you know, weave on, yeah. They want to, you know, buy the latest clothes. They want to, you know, buy all these, you know, high heel shoes. And believe it or not, some black women in Africa and Ghana have about 40 pairs of high heel shoes that they wear. Yeah. Some women want to, you know, now, you know, they want to eat at these fancy restaurants every day. They don't want to eat at Chop Bar anymore. They want to eat at fancy restaurant whereby one plate of jollof rice and chicken costs about equivalent of about $20. Why? Well, $20 is a bit, but let's say about $10. Yeah, $10. So a lot of women also are marrying for the wrong reason, because the man is financially well endowed. And again, that's the issue, because, you know, the man, when he clocks on, doesn't respect you, doesn't love you, yeah. And this is why some men cheat on this kind of women, because the woman is not really espousing in the love. All that she's doing is just, you know, financially exploiting her husband. And so, you know, as African people, we need to understand that marriage is not about money. Yes, I know it plays a big part, particularly in terms of like when you have children. But this is why, when you enter into a relationship, right, money should probably be the very first thing you discuss. You know, And this is what I said last week about about men not paying all the bill on the first date, because you could be seen in that regard by the woman as a cash cow, or that your kind of generosity could be into abuse. And that works the same with with women who earn more than the husband, and the husband wants to have a lavish lifestyle. And so we need to come together as a couple and discuss finances. So, are we going to have joint account, or are we going to have separate account? And again, that's another issue, because some marriages, right, they don't have joint account. The woman's got her account and the man's got his account. Yeah. And then obviously they spend as they like. But what about when you have children? Yeah. How is your individual account going to pay for the rent, or the school fees, or healthcare bills, or utility bills? Yeah. And this is why, if you do get married to somebody, right, it's important to talk about finances, and particularly having a joint account. So, because by having a joint account, right, you can have your own separate accounts for your own needs. So, the man will have his account. Yeah. So if he wants to go drinking with his mates, he can, tap into his own account. Yeah. And go out drinking with his mates. Or a woman, if she's got her own account, if she wants to buy some clothes, or have her hair done, or have her nails done, she can use her own money to do that, to fund that. But when you have a joint account, the joint account is basically about the family upkeep. So about the rent, about the school fees, about medical bills, medical expenditure, about utility bills, and about saving money for a rainy day. So, for example, you may want to go on holiday together or with the family. You may want to start some kind of building project. You may want to build a house, a building project, yeah? Or you may want to put some money towards starting a business. So that is the purpose of having a joint account, whereby you put the money for a particular goal, whether it's, like I said, to set up a business, to build a property, or day-to-day expenses, yeah, outside of your own personal expenses. Yeah. In that regard, when you have a joint account, and you both of you understand the nature of that joint account, yeah, that there'll be no confusion and no coercion by either partner, because they know that that joint account has a specific need, has a specific aim, has a specific purpose, as opposed to your own separate accounts, which are for your own private well-being. So like I said, if the man wants to go to the gym, yeah, he doesn't use money in the joint account to pay for his gym membership, right? But he pays his gym membership out of his own account. Same for the woman. If the woman wants to go to, I don't know, maybe pay church tithes, yeah, that tithe does not come from the joint account, but it comes from her own account. So by working in this way and understanding finances from that particular perspective, yeah, it makes money issues, right, less combative, and less, it has potential there to be less of an issue than this article that I've just read, or bits of it that I've just read at the beginning of the show. Yeah, because marriage is not about money. Marriage is about, like I said, about two people coming together, yeah, and helping each other achieve their objectives and goals, and also, building something together, as well as having a family and raising the children to become, fantastic human beings. Yeah, it's not about finances. It's not about money in the sense of, you see your husband as a cash cow, or you see your wife as a cash cow. No, it's not about that at all. And so we have to, reevaluate, yeah, how we view money in relationships, yeah, because like I said, a lot of marriages are suffering in Ghana and on the continent because, there's huge financial pressure now, particularly in Ghana with things have improved a bit since the new government came, but obviously there's still a cost of living crisis in Ghana with high rents and prices of goods and services not as low as they could be, as they should be, because of people want to hold on to their, people want to even though the city has appreciated against the dollar, people still want to maintain those high prices for their personal goals or agendas. But prices and goods and services in Ghana are still high. So that is contributing to a lot of pressure financially on a lot of families. And so if you are not, if you didn't talk with your partner about these financial issues, right, it can become a burden, and it can become to a extent whereby, this financial pressure is putting strain on the marriage, and that can end in separation or divorce, as we've seen in this particular example. And so, in wrapping up, I think it's very, very important for couples, when they're thinking about getting married, right, to talk seriously, and deeply about finances, Do you have your own separate accounts as well as having a joint account? Or do you just have a joint account, And then you also talk about how, we're going to share, things like the bills, the rent, the school fees, etc., And then you also talk about how we want to, help each other in terms of career goals, or in terms of, financial goals, particularly financial goals. Yes. What are your aims financially as a couple? Do you want to build a house in X amount of years? Do you want to establish a business in X amount of years? All that is inclusive within the good money management, procedure. And this is why it's very important as married couples, when you are embarking on a marriage, to talk about money, because if you don't, things like the article here, example, things like men, going behind their wives' back to use, the money to gamble, or women, having bad shopping habits, like they want to shop every day, every week, do their hair every day, etc. These could, in long term, lead to financial strain on the family, and that could end in divorce, separation. And so money is a very, very important issue within relationships that we as African people, mature African people, really, really need to talk out, so that in the future, we don't put ourselves into unnecessary financial hardships and untold financial pressure by taking out loans and other bits and pieces. Because if you plan properly, within a marriage, there's no need to take out a loan, because loan is a trap. Loan, credit card, all these things are a trap. And a lot of marriages in the West, UK, US, etc., where people are living on credit, is putting financial strains on marriage. So, we don't want that. We want, wholesome, truthful, meaningful, purposeful, financially responsible marriages. And that will, again, set an example to the future generation, particularly your children, about how, when they get into relationships, right, how to handle the financial maze. All right, so that's it from myself this week. You've been listening to Ghana African Focus with myself, Kwame. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to Ghana African Focus on YouTube. Subscribe to Ghana African Focus on Spotify. You want to donate to the show, click the donate button. We accept anything that you want to contribute. And if you want to do business in Ghana, you want to know about the Ghana card, you want to know about, how do I get a phone contract, etc., then we do offer a consultancy period session, and you can book your session with myself, and I'll leave you my email address in the notes to the show. All right, so in next week's show, we're gonna do a couple of things about health. revisit health, because health is a very, very important issue that a lot of podcasters, African podcasters don't really talk about. And so we're going to delve more into health. And then next week, we'll be looking about prostate cancer. Myth. For me, it's a big myth. This prostate cancer thing about Black men is a myth. I'll tell you why in next week's show. All right, so for myself, Kwame, and from all the crew here on Africa in Focus, thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you next week for some more Africa, Ghana in Focus.